Go.
Okay. Hi class. Let's get started on this lesson today. First I'm going to hand out some papers and we're going to be talking about the food guide pyramid and making healthy choices. So I'm going to hand out these papers. Do me a favor and turn them over, pass them around, turn them over and do something quick for me. Get out a pen. Alright, and on this piece of paper I want you to write down a food log. So a food log of things that you ate yesterday. And once we do that, at the very end of the lesson, we're going to talk about why we did that and some things to help you decide why you ate these certain things. So, next to what you ate, if you can do me a quick favor and write down what you ate, including drinks. So if you had orange juice for breakfast, if you had soda for lunch, if you had an apple for a snack, write down everything that you can remember that you ate yesterday. And next to it, do me a quick favor and write down why you ate what you did. So put a little dash next to it, and you're going to indicate there's a few reasons for why we eat things. So, were you bored? Were you tired? Were you lonely? Were you anxious? Can anyone tell me what they think anxious means? Leslie? Okay, good. So maybe a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of excitement. So there's certain reasons that we eat foods, right? And then obvious reason is that you were hungry. So, do me a favor, let's take a few minutes, turn the paper over, get your pen out, and write down your log. And like I said, we're going to go over that at the end of the day, at the end of the lesson, okay? So do that for me real quick. All right, and then let's move on. So, can anyone tell me if you think about what you eat before you actually eat it? Right? No? You don't think about what you eat, just take what mom gives you? Okay, so we're going to try and decide why we need to think about what we eat before we eat them. And the reason for that is we want to stay healthy and we want to know why we're putting things into our body, okay? So, can anyone tell me the 5 major food groups? And when we do that, we want to know why is it important to know these food groups and what can those, by knowing those, what can it do to make us more healthy, okay? So let's think about it. Anybody can tell me? Okay, nobody really knows. Let's move on then, okay? So here's a picture of the food guide pyramid. And if we look at it, there's a few different things about the food guide pyramid that you might think is interesting or that you notice about it. And the first thing that we notice is what? The different colors, right? So there's quite a few different colors, and the colors represent the different types of food groups. So the first one, if we look at it, is quite a big section, and it's a red section. And underneath here, what is that? We got some bread, and some oatmeal, and some crackers. So the different sections, do we know why that they're different sizes? Can anyone tell me? Okay, thank you, Katie. So they're different sections and sizes because that's maybe the different amounts that we should be eating per day, right? So the biggest one that we're looking at is grains and the breads and the oatmeals and things like that. The next biggest is the vegetables. So your obvious salads and your tomatoes and carrots, sweet potatoes, things like that. The next section, if we move over, is fruit. So it's a little bit smaller, but it's still one of the biggest sections on this food guide pyramid. The next section, very, very, very tiny. Why is that tiny? Anyone tell me? Okay, because it's probably something that we shouldn't be eating all that too often. And underneath it, we have oils. So another section of the oils is, let's move back here. So more like sugars, oils, things that we don't need all that often. The next one is, what do we got here? Milk and cheese. And that's a bigger section, right? So that's the dairy section. And then the next section over, we've got some fish and some chicken and some beans. So that's our proteins. So the different sections, these are different food groups that we want to take a look at. And we'll talk about each of these next, okay? So the different colors, the different sizes, and the different foods are in each of those different sections of the food guide pyramid, which we like to call my pyramid, because everyone's pyramid is similar in the different sizes, but everyone, depending on your age and your height and your weight, is going to be a little bit different. So your pyramid is going to be a little bit different than your mom and dad's pyramid as far as the amount of foods that you're going to eat. Okay, so let's give examples of the grains. Tyler? Okay, breads. Good. That's what we had talked about, right? So the breads were in the grains, pastas, rice, things like that. Vegetables, that's pretty obvious. The fruits, dairies. So dairy would be the yogurt, your cheese, your cottage cheese. And then moving on to the proteins, we have your fish, your chicken, right? Your meats. What about beans? Beans. What about soy milk? What would soy milk go into? So it's a milk, right? No, right? Because soy is a protein. Soy comes from a bean. So even though it's called soy milk, we got to think about it, and it comes from a bean. So soy would be a protein. So let's move on next. So was there anything that I said that could be missing from the pyramid? And that would be junk food, right? We didn't see any sections that had chips and soda and candy and cookies and cakes, did we? So even though that was a very small section, that means we want to eat that in very limited amounts. So it's okay to have dessert every once in a while. We don't want to have chocolate for breakfast and cookies for lunch and cake for dinner, right? So we want to spread out what we eat, and we want to try and eat different sections. We want to make sure we get a little bit of each of the sections in the food group, and that's what's going to make us more healthy, and we're going to be more conscious about what we're doing and why we're eating it and when we're eating it. Okay, so next we're going to look at a little section here. Now this is the percentage of obese adults, which they're classifying in the CDC website as a BMI of greater than 30. So body mass index of greater than 30. And we're going to look at each of these sections and see what's happening. Okay? So in 1985, this is a map of the United States, obviously, and we're going to look at what's happening in the colors. They're changing, right? So what way are we changing? We're getting bigger and bigger. As the colors get darker and into the reds, that means people are getting a little bit unhealthy, okay? So this first section, we do have some that there's no data, but that's okay, because as we move on, it looks like every state is getting involved in telling us what's going on in their state, okay? So in 1985, looks like only about 10%, maybe 14% of the population in each of these states is considered obese, okay? So 10%, that's not too bad, right? So then we're going to move to 1992, and what's happening? It's getting a little bit darker, right? So we're moving from 10% and 10 to 14%, and it's looking like most of the states are 14 to 19% of that population is considered obese. Okay? 1997, it's getting darker, even more darker than it was in 85 and 92. So we're moving here, and right now we're at 15 to 19%, and look, we've got 3 states that 20 to 24% of their population are considered obese. Okay, so this is not so good. In 2002, it's looking even worse. What's going on here, right? So in 2002, we've got 20 to 24%, and that's quite a few of those states. 20 to 24% of those states are obese, and and we've got 3 states that 25 to 29% of their state are considered obese. All right, that's not so good. 2006, it's looking even worse. What's going on? How come we're not going backwards, right? With all that everybody knows and all the different types of foods that are out there, why is it going in the wrong direction? So we've got 20 to 24% and 25 to 29%, and we've even got 3 states that have more than 30% of the people in their state are considered obese, right? And this is recently, this is 2009, just a couple years ago, and we've got one that's 15 to 19%, right? So that's pretty good, all right? But then we've got quite a few that are greater than 30% of the population is obese. So what's the trend? Katie? Right. The trend is going the wrong way, I think. And what can we do to reverse it, right? Anybody? Looking at that food guide pyramid. Making ourselves more educated, right? Okay, so this is what we want to fix. You guys, we can help, we can make this better. All right, we can fix this. And how can we do that? By being more knowledgeable and understanding the food guide pyramid and what we're putting in our bodies and knowing what we want to eat and why we're eating it. Okay, so the grains. Why are we wanting to eat these grains? And what are different types of grains? So grains provide complex carbohydrates which provide energy. So in order for us to get up every day and do what we want to do and go exercise and be active, you need some grains. So your breads, your pastas, your rices. But there are different types of grains. So let's talk about those. What do we think would be better, a white bread or a wheat bread? Wheat bread, right? How come? It's more healthy. Thanks, Katie. All right, so it's more healthy, but the difference is the white one has refined flour in it, and the wheat one is whole grain. So the refined flours, that means they're taking out pretty much all of the good things that are in it. So even though we want you to have some grains, let's make better decisions about which ones we want to eat. So if you can choose between a cinnamon roll and a piece of wheat toast, cinnamon roll may taste really good, right? But the wheat toast is going to be a lot better for you, and it provide a lot more energy because it's got those whole grains rather than that refined grains that we talked about. Proteins. We've got the fish, the meat, the beans, and these provide iron and zinc and vitamins and proteins. The proteins help us build our muscles up. And so is this an example of a protein? Yes? Okay, so as long as we know the different types of foods in the food guide pyramid, we can make better decisions, right? So the next one's fruit. We all know that fruit's good for us, but remember we noticed it was a little bit smaller than the vegetables, and the reason for that is because fruits have sugars in them. So even though they are good for you, we want to eat a lot of fruits because they provide us with a lot of vitamins, they're low in fat and calories, but they do have sugar. So if you're going to have a snack, fruits are a great option. A lot better than that candy bar or things like that. But they also have a lot of sugar in them, so you're going to get a quick high and then you're going to drain down just a little bit. So let's be careful with what we're eating. One option that I found, which is really good, because I know sometimes it's hard if you want to bring a banana to school, it gets all smashed in your lunch, right? So I found some good options. This is freeze-dried fruit. So it's got all the, the vitamins and the things that are great in fruits. But you can throw them in your snack, in your bag, and they're not going to get all smushed up. They're going to stay fresh. If you don't eat them for a week, they're still going to be good for you. There's no preservatives or anything like that in these. This is from Costco. These are a good choice. So if you have things that you wanted to eat, but you don't have all the time to be able to prepare, sliced apples or whatever it is, it's a good option. Veggies. Veggies provide the vitamins, especially vitamins A and C. Are a good source of fiber, which keeps you full, right? And then they're low in fat. And lastly is dairy. So dairy is high in protein and calcium. So calcium makes our bones really strong so we can do all the fun activities that we like to do, right? Okay, so moving on, let's review the pyramid. We looked at the grains, the veggies, the fruits, that small little sliver of the oils and fats, the dairy, and the proteins, right? So we want to look at that before we're choosing what we're going to eat every day. Let's just take a quick think about what that is, and this is going to give you an idea of the proportion of foods that you should be eating in your day. So you should mostly be having your grains, then the next largest amount would be your veggies, and from there on, right? So taking a look at that. So looking back, turn over your paper, and let's look back at that food log that you did at the beginning of class. Okay, so look at all your things that you wrote down. Some of you are laughing. What's so funny here? Remember we saw those maps? This isn't a funny matter, all right? So we're going to look at the food log and the foods for each of the sections. Do you guys have foods in each of your on your food log that are different parts of the pyramid? If you do, you want to eat a variety of foods, and you don't just want to have foods from one section. So if you only had meat yesterday, it's not going to do you any good. You're not going to have any energy to be able to do your activities, your soccer, your softball after school, right? So you want to make sure you're having all the different varieties in that food group. Look at your pyramid and let me know what's going on there. And by looking at that, I know I didn't give you a ton of time, but this is something that you can do on a regular basis just to kind of keep track of what you're eating, why you're eating it, right? Remember we looked at the reasons? Because some of you may have gone to the movie theater yesterday, right? Did you go to a movie? And did you have popcorn? But what was the reason that you ate that popcorn? Probably wasn't the reason that you were hungry, right? It's just something that we do when we go to the movie theater. And that's fine every once in a while, all right? So think before you start eating things and why you're eating them, and if you're lonely and there's nothing else to do, and is that why you're eating? So these are some good, make conscious decisions, the food choices that you are eating, and this will help you in the future so that we can reverse that effect that we saw on that map earlier, right? Okay, so I pulled up some really great websites that are kind of fun and interactive. And so this on this paper as well, at the back of the section. So if you want to go online tonight, you can. You can show it to your parents and your brother and your sister and tell them what you learned today. And also, there's a link for a daily food plan. So if you like doing that log today, all right, there's a section where you can indicate in this website and you can put in your foods. It'll actually tell you the different sections of the food guide pyramid that fits into. So it's really cool, and it'll make your own pyramid to show you from that log what your pyramid looked like for that day. All right, so that was really cool. I put some recipes for kids, some really good recipe ideas, and also I have some handouts with some good recipes. If you want to help mom and dad in the kitchen, these are some really good ones. I got some fish stick recipes. Most of you are thinking fish sticks. Those are fried. Those are yucky. No, this is a baked fish stick recipe. We've got a smoothie recipe. So in the morning, if you want to make a quick smoothie, or before you go to soccer practice, you want to have a smoothie. All right, we've got that on there. There's also, I know, some sweet potato fries. Which fries, generally, if you get them at McDonald's or Jack in the Box, are going to be fried. But these ones are oven baked, so they're really healthy for you. And there's some ravioli and vegetable soup recipes. So I'm going to pass those out if you guys can hand those around. Those are some good, fun ways to get involved with the family and to make better decisions, okay? Go to the grocery store with mom and help mom pick out some really good food options, okay? Rather than all that stuff that we're throwing into our lunches, let's help make decisions on what we're eating and why we're eating it. Also, you can go onto Twitter. I know there's a few of you on here that like Twitter. And you can go onto My Pyramid on there, and every day they will Twitter new fun ideas for staying healthy. So whether it's a new recipe or new physical activity ideas, things like that, go onto Twitter, sign in, and you'll get some daily updates every day. Okay? So any questions that we have? No? Everybody feel like they are more conscious now of the decisions that they're making and going to make in the future? All right. That's what we wanted. Thanks so much.